college football championships, the NFL playoffs, a famous Patriot returns home, and fans taking things a little too far. Let's kick off this show. We're going to start with the coaching carousel. And that famous Patriot returning home is none other than Mike Vrabel. This is an interesting, I guess it's not interesting. It's pretty obvious that he would come home. Like I said before in my last episode, if I was him, I don't think I would have, just because probably some pettiness there. But this is a fit that we all know was going to happen and is ultimately the right fit. Vrabel's a great coach. He's going to instill a culture there. He'll get the best out of his players. So I do think this was a good move by Kraft to hire him. We also got Mike McCarthy out of Dallas now. Basically, Mike Tomlin 2.0. Could win a lot of games, but couldn't finish them in the couldn't win games in the playoffs. He just recently had an interview with the Bears. Mike McCarthy's going to be a head coach again, and he's going to win games again. Can he get it done in the playoffs somewhere? Maybe. But he is a good coach. We got a Pittsburgh Steeler getting some interviews in Arthur Smith. He had an interview also with the Bears. If I'm the Bears, I'm probably going McCarthy. Offensive-minded head coaches. And McCarthy kind of has the better resume than Smith, especially after this just past season and how abysmal the Steelers' offense was. Arthur Smith also had an interview with the Jets. That would be interesting there, even though the Jets have also interviewed Ben Johnson, who is the better hire there. But teams are interested in Arthur Smith, and as a Steelers fan myself, I think I'm okay with that. I kind of want to see a young offensive coach come in here and see what he can do, make it more modernized. And also, while we're on the topic, just don't sign Russell Wilson. Keep Fields, go that route. But I can get into that later. Another head coach position is Kellen Moore getting interviewed for the Cowboys head coach position, which is a little funny because he was the offensive coordinator. They let him go to the Eagles. He's been doing good with the Eagles, and they're like, hey, come back. Why don't you? And he seemed interested because he went for an interview. I mean, head coach is better than being an offensive coordinator, but it's pretty nice to have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley to coach. You potentially every year have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But head coach is obviously nicer, pays more. It makes sense that he might take that chance. Robert Saleh also had an interview with the Cowboys. You guys know how much I think that Robert Saleh is a solid coach. Doesn't have a winning record, but he was the head coach of the Jets. So give him a little leeway there. My final coaching carousel take of this episode is that there are rumors that Deion Sanders may become a head coach for the Cowboys. That fit would be very fitting to see Deion as a Cowboy, of course. Played there, spotlight, America's team. He would be all over it, but that's not going to happen because Jerry Jones likes to be the spotlight of the Cowboys. And Deion Sanders is too much prime time. And he also said himself that he does not plan on becoming a head coach unless both of his kids were on that team. Though, with that being said, if he does get hired as the Cowboys head coach, I expect them to try everything they can to get both of Sanders' kids on that team. Whether that means that they are going to trade up into the top 5 to get Shador or not. That would be very interesting to see in the NFL, a head coach coaching both of his kids on the same team. Let's transition to the college championship. We got Notre Dame versus Ohio State. My take is that Ohio State is going to run away with this game a little bit. I don't think Notre Dame has the firepower that Ohio State does on offense. Defense, they're kind of even, though Notre Dame doesn't have their top corner. Some players to watch in this game. For Ohio State, I would say Ibuka. He kind of has been towards the end second fiddle to Jeremiah Smith. But the reason I say to watch him here is that Notre Dame has to cover one of them, whether it's Jeremiah Smith or Ibuka. And Ibuka is trying to really prove himself as a top talented wide receiver in this year's draft class. And I think he wants to ball out in the championship game when all eyes are on Ohio State. And I think he can do it. He's a very solid route runner. He's lanky. He's in my top 10. Another player to look out for is Will Howard. He needs to be smart with the football. If he's smart with the football and doesn't turn it over and makes ridiculous throws, they are going to win this game, and they'll win by 13. That being said, I don't know how much faith I have in him to do that. He's a very talented player, very athletic, big player with a good arm, but his decision-making is sometimes rough to watch. And my third player for Ohio State to look out for is Tyleik Williams. That is a big man on that front line. He is going to be a highly sought-after defensive tackle in the draft. And I think he's going to be able to show off his skills here. And Ohio State is really going to need him to be able to stop Jeremiah Love and this rushing attack of Notre Dame. If he can plug up those holes in the front, Notre Dame is going to struggle offensively. And that's kind of my point for Notre Dame to win. I got Riley Leonard. If he can also play smart, but get his legs going and get this rushing attack going for Notre Dame, then they can keep it close, have a chance to win, as well as Jeremiah Love. He's playing on a bad knee. He needs to get going. He was running really hard last game, helped them to win the game ultimately, especially on that goal line run. That was one heck of a try. It was awesome to watch. My final player to watch in that game for Notre Dame is Xavier Watts. I was speaking of Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith, and shutting either both of them down or one of them down is going to be key for Xavier Watts to do. He is a very talented player as well. There were so many studs in this game. It's going to be very fun to watch. I don't know where Watts is going to go in the draft, but wherever he goes, I think he will make an impact. And going from one exciting game to one that might not be as close, the NFL playoffs are also this weekend. Chiefs versus Texans. Texans just absolutely destroyed the Chargers. I don't know what happened in that game. Herbert looked like a completely different player. 3 or 4 interceptions. defense could not stop the Texans whatsoever. That game had everything. And the Texans, after looking like a completely lost team, turned it completely 360 and looked like they knew the future. And they're going up against a juggernaut in the Chiefs. The Chiefs, no one can put money against them because they are the Chiefs. They are the 2-time defending champions. They have Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, and Pacheco. And they still are winning games, whether it's close games or not. And so I think the Chiefs are going to come out on top here, and the Texans just won't have enough to get past this championship team. And then we have the Commanders and Lions. And the Lions have a very solid chance to advance in the playoffs. They're going up against Jaden Daniels, who looks phenomenal and looks like he's going to be an absolute superstar in this league. But Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and the stats are not in his favor. There have only been 12 rookies that have at least won one playoff, and he is one of them. And there are 4 players that are rookies that have won 2 playoffs. And that's Brock Purdy in 2020, Mark Sanchez in 2009, Joe Flacco in 2008, and then you have Dieter Brock in 1985. So you have 3 quarterbacks who have won 2 playoff games since 2008. That is not very good odds. And also to say that all of those players that have won as a rookie 2 games all lost in the conference championship. So it is very highly likely that even if the Commanders win this game, they are most likely not going to win the championship game. So that'll be very interesting to see the odds of that game if they win, but I have all faith that the Lions are going to take care of business and move on in the playoffs. They are a dominant team. Everyone that gets in there does their job. Jahmyr Gibbs is explosive. I believe Montgomery's coming back. They have their 1-2 punch. Goff doesn't turn the ball over. Even when they do, or what he does, Goff threw like 4 interceptions in one game, and they still somehow came on top. That team knows how to fight. Dan Campbell is an absolute leader of a head coach. And I think Adam Schefter just posted out recently a video of Dan Campbell becoming the Miami Dolphins head coach, intern head coach in 2015. And one of the reporters asked him how he was feeling, and he said that he was so giddy and nervous that he was about to throw up on his shoes. And so he is still the same kneecap-biting Dan Campbell he has always been. I love his energy. That man is going to be a Hall of Fame coach one day, and I love to see it, and I can't wait to continue to watch his teams. Then we got the Rams and Eagles on Sunday. We got the veteran in Stafford, and they took care of business. There was blowout after blowout this wild card weekend, and the Rams were one of the teams that did it. They took care of the Vikings easily. Sam Darnold turned into a pumpkin when I on here said that he was not going to. He just absolutely fell flat. I don't know what happened there. The defense got tore up by Matt Stafford. And the Eagles have a much better team, though. They have a better quarterback. I think Hurts is better than Sam Darnold. I think everyone would agree with me on that. Barkley has been on an absolute tear this season. He's healthy. And so if I'm a Rams fan, I kind of feel nervous about this game because the Eagles' secondary defense is elite. I think it'll be a closer game, but I still think the Eagles will come out on top there. And then we have the game everyone is looking forward to in the Ravens versus Bills. The matchup of two MVPs, Lamar and Josh Allen. And just for the fun of it, you have Derrick Henry in the backfield. Ravens also both teams coming off blowout wins. Both of them looking absolutely dominant in them. I would say so. I would say the Bills more so. That game was just single-handedly dominant. I think Josh Allen threw for almost 300 yards and ran for 50 yards, and both quarterbacks showed why they deserve to be MVP. Ultimately, I think Lamar is going to win it just because of stats. But as for this game, this is going to be a close game. The Bills lost to the Ravens last time. This is their revenge game. And I think they will get their revenge. I think Josh Allen is going to put this team on his back. The Ravens are going to outthink themselves, and Josh Allen is just going to go to work on this team. The Ravens defense during the regular season had holes in it. Same with the Bills, but I ultimately think the Bills will be able to outplay the Ravens offense just one series. It'll be a back and forth, and I think the Bills will just barely outplay them. And then we're going to go to the NFL draft, my draft takes. All right, my quarterbacks for this year's draft. Starting number 1, I got Cam Ward. I think he has the most potential out of all of the quarterbacks. He is smart with his throws. He has, I think, the most arm talent. Though I will say that I have to agree that this class is not the most talented. I think next year's is going to be better, but there could be a couple of diamonds in the rough here. And I think Cam Ward, I mean, you can't really call him a diamond in the rough if he's number 1. I think people seeing this and having Shedeur Sanders as 3 is a little bit shocking. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Johnny Manziel-esque, of a college player who runs around in the backfield a lot. You're not going to be able to do that in the NFL. You either will get hurt, or those types of players tend to have a lot of turnovers and think that they can just create magic all the time. NFL players are disciplined, they do their job, and that type of nonsense doesn't work. That being said, though, he is talented. He's very accurate with his throws, and he does have athleticism. But if he can control his I need to make a play every play mentality, I think he can be pretty great. But I do think that Jackson Dart is a little bit better than him. I like Jackson Dart's size a little bit more, and I think he has a stronger arm, but he kind of also has a little bit of that mentality of trying to make a play every play, but it's a little bit less than Shedeur Sanders is. I like the running ability that's on almost like these top 3 quarterbacks. Cam Ward doesn't like to run as much, and that's okay because his arm talent is good enough. Both of these quarterbacks, kind of Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders, they kind of rely on their legs to make plays happen a little bit more. And that's okay. The league is kind of transitioning into that more and more, as you see with Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. And that ultimately, I think, is going to benefit them. But that's why I give the edge to Dart, is because I think his arm is just a little bit better than Shedeur Sanders. Then I have Dylan Gabriel as 4, which that might shock people too. Some people might have viewers over him. I just think Gabriel throws a little bit prettier of a ball. And it also helps that his receivers were smaller, in my opinion. So he might be more accurate if he's throwing to, say, like a taller 6'4" receiver compared to his two like 6', 5'11", 5'10" receivers. And Quinn Ewers just declared recently, so I got him halfway. He's a very solid quarterback. His decision making is a little bit questionable. He's not the craziest arm strength. He's a very solid quarterback. And then we got Will Howard, who is one of my players to look for in Ohio's game this week. He is very athletic. Also, decision making is a problem. Kind of see a theme here in this year's draft. He's a big-bodied quarterback, though, 6'4", 235. Kind of like Josh Allen in the fact that having that athleticism, he can lower his shoulder during his run. He's not afraid to take contact. So he's fun to watch when he runs. And next we have Carson Beck. Didn't get to watch him in his playoff game. He was injured. 6'4", 220. A little bit lighter. So that same with Ewers and Gabriel and Shador. Being a little lighter, you can take a little bit more injury. Like, you might be a little bit more injury prone. But Carson Beck plays against a lot of great talent on Georgia. You play with a lot of talent, a lot of NFL talent. So you kind of know what to expect at the NFL level a little bit more than some of these other quarterbacks. And so that kind of gives him a little bit of an edge, in my opinion. Some people might be shocked that I have Jalen Milroe all the way down at the bottom. Some people not. He's a very hot and cold, likable type of player. Very athletic, very fast, very like Justin Fields. He can take a ball and run with it for 80 yards, and he has great arm strength, but it's his accuracy that is very questionable, which is something that can be worked on, and that's why some people still really like him. I just feel like I would take other people over him. And then you have Kyle McCord, who's like a pure pocket passer. My comparison would be like Kirk Cousins. Not very recent Kirk Cousins, but over career-wise Kirk Cousins, where he sits in the pocket, very accurate. Also Drew Brees-esque. He led the league in passing yards. He could be someone to look out for in the draft. He's going to fall because you have all these other quarterbacks, and I think he could fall because there's a lot of other talent at other positions: wide receiver, running back, defensive line, corner, safety. So these quarterbacks could fall in the draft very easily. And to round out my list, I have Curtis Rourke from Indiana, 6'5", 223. I kind of like the size, especially for his athleticism and his playmaking ability. So he's someone that intrigues me and could be a sleeper in this draft as well. But some people are starting to take notice of that. To lead my running backs, there is no surprise. It is Ashton Jeanty, 5'9", 215. This man is a tank. He does not go down off of arm tackles, even off regular tackles. If you watch that Penn State run, which I might show it, I don't know if I can or not. He tried so hard on that Boise game, and I was really rooting for him. And I think he got snubbed for the Heisman, but that's another topic. He is going to be a superstar in the NFL. He could go somewhere with like Dallas might take him, or the Raiders might take him. But he is going to be an absolute stud, and I don't think anyone is surprised by that. Next, I have Caleb Johnson from Iowa, 6 foot, 225. Doesn't look like it. Very fast and athletic for his size. Ball carrier vision is amazing, can also catch the ball. He is very well rounded of a running back. A team will be very happy to get him. And then I have Quinshon Judkins, 6'2", 220. You'll be able to watch him in Ohio State. You'll see why I have him ranked so high. He is a stud as well. This running back class, there's a lot of players that I do not think you can go wrong with. All of these running backs break tackles, can be third down backs, can catch the ball out of the backfield. There is talent throughout this whole draft class. Cam Scatterbo, you probably seen him in that Arizona State playoff game. Did everything he could to win that game. He put it on his back. He had a passing touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. He had rushing touchdowns. This kid is very special. At 5'10", 225 too, he's like a bowling ball. I am excited to watch this kid in the NFL, to see where he goes, to see how he develops. This kid is a team player and will do anything for you to win. I honestly almost put him above Quinshon Judkins because this kid breaks tackles just as often as Ashton Genty does. But I think that Judkins has a little bit more burst than Scatterbo. And so I think that just edges Judkins out over Scatterbo. Then I got Taj Brooks coming in next. Also 5'10", 230. Not as explosive as Scatterbo, but he is a bell cow and will continuously get you yards. My comparison would be like Najee Harris. Very consistent in the way he runs, very powerful runner. He also can catch the ball pretty well, which for his size is kind of surprising. But he doesn't have that long-term burst. He kind of gasses out on long runs. But if you're looking for a power back, Taj Brooks is going to be outstanding for you. Next, I have Omarion Hampton, 6', 220. Some people have him as the second best running back in the draft. I'm a little shocked by that. His stats are good. The competition he faced against wasn't super great. And I can see what some people like with how powerful he is as a runner, but watching him hit big runs, he tends to also gas out like Brooks does, but he's a little bit smaller than Brooks. And so, I mean, that my opinion might change it whenever this is all before the scouting combine. So if he runs a 4.3, he would shoot up my draft stock, my draft board. Kyle Monangai, 5'9", 209. He is my sleeper of this draft. He breaks tackles. You cannot get this man on the ground easily. Explosive runner, could take it to the house at any point. I will love to see him in a Steelers uniform, in my personal opinion. He's going to fall in the draft, but I think he is one of the best running backs in this class by far. Honestly, I was thinking of putting him at 5 because of what I've seen, the tape I've seen. He can catch, he can run hard, he runs hard, he never quits on a run. He's low to the ground, so it's hard to tackle him. Very like Darren Sproles, but I think he's more powerful than Darren Sproles. So be on the lookout for him. Then I have Trayvon Henderson. Some people are very high on him. I think he's a little bit injury prone. 5'10", 208. He is very explosive, as you can see on that screenplay against Texas. He can take the ball to the house at any play as well. Great ball carrier vision. But the only reason I have him down here at 8 is because of injury prone. And then next I have Dylan Sampson, 5'11", 201. Super explosive. Probably the most explosive runner out of all of these guys. Great hands. He's more of a receiving scat back, in my opinion. Not really a third down, every down back, but more of a third down back. Kind of like Bucky Irving this year, but I don't think he's more of an every down back like Bucky can be. So I think that like shared role, like the Bucky Irving, Rashard White, I think that would be a perfect fit for Sampson. If someone's looking for a receiving scat back, he is going to be absolutely dominant. Kind of like the Gibbs and Montgomery. So if Sampson gets placed with a power back, then he is going to be a stud in the NFL. Finally, to round off my list, I have Ollie Gordon, 6'2", 225. A lot of people know him from the season prior, where he went absolutely nuts and was taking the college league by storm. Kind of fell off a little bit and kind of left people's minds, but he's still very explosive. He got injured. He could come back. He works hard. I think he could be a great player in the NFL, and so that's why he ends on my top 10. My favorite position and favorite thing to talk about is the wide receivers. There's back and forth for people between Hunter and McMillan being the number one receiver. I think with McMillan's size at 6'5", 210, his route running, his speed, you can't compare them. McMillan is the best wide receiver in this draft, bar none. And he actually might be a top 5 draft pick in this year's draft. Hunter, though, may go 1 just because of his ability to play either corner or receiver. So someone might draft him and then see which position they want to put him in. Travis Hunter's hand-eye coordination is spectacular. His highlight tape looks video game-esque in all his diving catches, sideline catches. He knows how to catch the ball. So people having him at 1 isn't very surprising, but McMillan's physical attributes is just insane. And his size compared to Hunter's is makes him a little bit over the top for me. I think that's a little bit of a no-brainer in my opinion. And then you have Ibuka, who is my third best receiver. Some people might have Trey Harris over him. I would really watch and recommend watching Ibuka in this upcoming game, the Notre Dame game. This man's route running skills is great. At 6'1", 205 as well, that's going to be hard to stop. Normally these great route runners are usually like 5'10", 5'11", shifty guys. So being 6'1", 205 and having the route running that he does is very impressive, and that would make a lot of NFL teams happy to have on their team. Number 4, I got Trey Harris, who is all of these guys are studs. Trey Harris, 6'2", 205, fast. He is a fast, big receiver. Helped Ole Miss have an explosive offense, and he is fun to watch. Then we have Savion Williams. I thought I was kind of finding a sleeper here, but he's starting to explode off people's boards. 6'5", 225, makes plays all over the field, knows how to run with the ball after he catches it. Don't be surprised if this guy starts going up people's boards even more. He's very solid. I also love Xavier Restrepo. He's more of that shifty slot guy I was talking about, like Ibuka, except this guy could also play on the outside. Physical guy, hard worker. I love Xavier Restrepo, but I have to be a realist and put him at 6 because of the physical, because he is a smaller guy. That's kind of my only knock on him. If this man was 6 foot 6'2", I think I'm putting him at 2 or even 1. He has the football mentality of a player. When you watch him, you could just tell he is a football player. Then I have Luther Burden at 7, 5'11", 208. I just love how he runs after the catch. He can make anything go all the way to the house. If you're like a West Coast style team and you love slants, screens, short passes, I think Burden is going to be a player that is going to get targeted. Burden's also a player that can beat you over the top. So I like him at 7 here. Then I got Isaiah Bond, 5'11", 180. A lot of these small, lanky receivers are starting to become more and more popular. We have Worthy last year who went to the Chiefs, kind of like these gadget players. I kind of see Isaiah Bond being one of those guys. Still a great route runner, has great hands, but I do see him being more of like a gadget player. I have Jalen Knoll next, 5'10", 200. Pretty similar to Xavier Restrepo here, except I think he knows where to find zones, knows where to find the holes in defenses, and takes advantage of them. And finally, to round off my list, I have Jack Beck, 6'2", 215. Kind of came out of nowhere. This was his first full season as a starter and took advantage of it. I think he had like 1,400 receiving yards, something like that, and looked great doing it. I will not be surprised if he starts rising on people's boards. I love Jack Beck. I would love to have him on the team. He finishes my top 10. Finally, I'm going to end with the tight ends. I'm going to do the skill positions. All right, tight ends. I have Tyler Warren. No surprise. 6'6", 257. Dude's an animal. He does it all. Blocking, catching, running after the catch. He is an absolute beast. And I think whoever gets him is going to get a long-term fix at tight end. He's very George Kittle, except for I believe he's bigger than George Kittle. Being 6'6", 260 with the athleticism that he has, that's very impressive. Very one-of-one type of player. And not a lot of teams want to draft tight ends high, so he might fall into the second round. But if you get him in the first round, I mean, I wouldn't blame you for taking a chance on him. Next, I have Colston Loveland, 6'5", 245. Very solid tight end. Everyone loves this guy. Great blocker, soft hands. I'm saying soft hands not because he puts on lotion, but because he catches the ball very well. And he's just a very well-rounded tight end. Not too many of them are well-rounded as well as Warren and Loveland are. So that's why I have them 1-2. Then we have Harold Fannin Jr., 6'4", 230, who is a pure, basically big receiver. He knows how to catch the ball. Went over 1,000 yards receiving this year. He is going to be a playmaker, a difference maker receiving for a team. 4, I have Gunnar Helm, 6'5", 250. Kind of like Loveland, not super athletic, not a super great blocker. Kind of like that very like well-rounded player, but he's not as good as Loveland is, so that's why I had him below. But he's on a winning team, the Texans. He knows how to win, knows how to have that work ethic for it. So I like him at 4. John Michael the Cyborg, 6'5", 225, kind of a smaller tight end, but this kid is explosive. He knows how to make plays on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if someone drafted him as like a slot tight end, uh, kind of how like Zach Ertz is used, or some of these receiving tight ends. I think people should give the Borgs a chance, and I think he'll take advantage of it. Elijah Arreo, 6'4", 245. Also like a receiving tight end. Pretty big body receiving tight end. I liked watching his tape a lot. I liked his route running and the ability to catch contested passes. Mason Taylor, 6'6", 253. Son of Jason Taylor, so that helps him out a little bit. He knows how to work in the NFL, what it takes to become a superstar in the NFL. Interesting position at tight end, but he plays it well. Pretty speedy for 6'6", 253. Loves contact. Not surprised. Having your dad as a Hall of Fame defensive end, I'm sure you like contact. At 8, Mitchell Evans, 6'5", 260. This man can catch the ball. He is probably one of the best catchers in this draft class. Had some highlight tape, an amazing one-handed catch. If you haven't seen that, I would show it. I'll show it, or you should go and see. Amazing one-handed catch. Luke Leachy. I have to put an Iowa tight end on here. If I didn't, it would be a crime. That being said, though, Leachy has some injury problems, and that worries me a little bit. So that made him fall pretty heavily on my board. 6'6", 247. That's pretty great size for a tight end. But coming out of tight end, you probably know a thing or two on how to play tight end. So a team taking a chance on him is probably smart. To finally round it out, I went with Caden Prescorn. There was a lot of players I could have went here at 10. They're all pretty like average at this point. But there might be a diamond in the rough, and that's who I think Caden Prescorn is. 6'5", 255. Knows how to find the soft zones. Very like Travis Kelce does. Jason Witten did. Heath Miller. They know how to find those soft zones and just sit and wait for the quarterback to realize that they're there and throw it to them. Caden Prescorn does that really well, and I think he could take advantage of that in the NFL as well. He's not super athletic, doesn't have amazing hands, but I think the knowledge that he has can really help a team out. Another thing I wanted to talk about today was a little bit somber. There was an incident at a Packers-Eagles game. There was a fan who belittled and insulted a woman at a level that the news was showing and had to bleep out almost every single word. That is not okay. That's not something that should be done at football games. People are there to have fun, to enjoy watching professional athletes play. It is a game. People don't need to take it that seriously. And that man was found out and banned from the stadium. And later to find out that his job had fired him. I don't want to defend him in any way because what he did was wrong, and I would not have appreciated seeing that, and I think that that is super irresponsible. I don't know who that man is. I don't know if he had too much to drink, but that is not the type of precedent that you want to set as a fan base. I'm sure, though, he feels embarrassed now about it. And whenever I heard that his job heard and fired him, in my opinion, I don't know if that's fair. Having your livelihood affected in a decision that was not well made. Who knows if he was drinking? Who knows what the type of person he is? But that being said, there are consequences to your actions. And so I do think him getting banned was proper, and that I hope he learned his lesson in this and can become a better person out of it. And I hear too many stories of people going to games, these rival games, these high intense games, and stuff happening like this, fights breaking out, people hearing racial slurs, and I don't understand it. I don't know why it becomes such a violent and ignorant time where people are season ticket holders and they don't want to go to games anymore because, or at least they avoid those games because they don't want to go to them because they're so nasty. And people are supposed to go to games to become like one unit, rooting for someone, rooting for a team, and like joyous. If your team loses, yeah, it sucks, but you're in that loss together. And there's fun in banter and heckling, but taking it to a point of making people super uncomfortable, I don't get it. It's unnecessary, and that should be something that is like people should work on it and help stop that type of culture, because frankly it's a little embarrassing as well. No one wants to be caught acting like that and then thrown on national news. And so, like I said, I'm sure he's regretting it. I'm not defending him. I think the Eagles did the right thing in banning him because, like I said, your actions have to have consequences. In the next episode, I plan on breaking down the defensive draft class, the conference championships, the winner of the college football championship, and anything you guys want me to talk about. Leave anything in the comments that you think will be good news or good topics to talk about. I'd love to hear feedback, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.